Welcome to the new edition of the ABBA League magazine. The 14th round marked the transition to the second part of the season as the two Slovenian clubs lock horns with the two highest-ranked Croatian outfits. The still undefeated Crvena Zvezda had a good chance of prolonging that streak as they confronted the last-place team of the league, Levski Sofia. It was also very hot in Valjevo between Metalac and Buducnost. While at the end of the show, we will of course show you the best 5 actions of the round. First the news though, a long-standing Široki Brijeg player Boris Barać has signed a 3-year deal with Zadar after only featuring once for Cibona this year. Last year he had an average of 12.6 points while playing for Široki. A new injury trouble for Union Olympia as Luka Rupnik is the next player to be missing through injury. This time it's back injury for the young playmaker. He is expected to be out for the next 8 weeks. Prior to the game against Krka, the third-place Cedevita was keen to remember what happened in Novo Mesto in the first round of the season when they were powerless against Malcolm Armstead. The fact that he would only score 3 points this time around would say a lot about this match, which the visitors opened well as they scored the first 4 points through Tomasz Bolčina, but then Nemanja Gordic started a run of 15 unanswered points by the home team, after which they were 10 points in front right from the start. Erion Castrati kept Krka in it at the time, scoring 5 and making it 17-10. But Nemanja Gordic was playing really well as he was mainly behind Cedevita, punishing Krka's bad defensive display and finishing the first quarter strongly with the score being 29-15. Soon in the second period, Cedevita broke away to a 17-point lead as Mario Dilas scored and drew a foul as well. And after that, the visitors finally managed to score from distance as Matej Rojc made only their 6th attempt count. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't a sign of better things to come, as by the time Roko Leni Ukic scored for 3, the gap had already risen to 21 points. 2 of Krka's players were keeping their boat afloat in the second quarter. Chris Booker and Mirko Mulalic were responsible for 8 points in that period. First Booker scored and then Mulalic hit one of his 2 threes that night to give some kind of hope to the visitors, who were still behind by 16 after the first 20 minutes. No real defensive improvement from Krka in the second half, though, as Cedevita was still scoring easy baskets and was soon equaling their highest advantage of 21 points through Miro Bilan. After that, Krka did react and recorded a good run of 12-4, and after Joksimovic's points from the free throw line, his team had closed the gap to 13 points. But that was only temporary flash, as Cedevita then scored the next 11 points and set a new highest lead of the game of 24, when Tomislav Zupčić made it 75-51. Erion Castrati then produced some fine display in the last quarter, in which he had scored 9 of 10 Krka's points and finished the game on record-breaking 20. The best Krka would do in the last period was to close the gap to 15 points through Mirko Mulalic and then score none in the last 2 minutes of the match. Till the end of the game, Cedevita was able to register 100 points and Roko Leni Ukic this season's personal best of 20 points. Game finished with 100-75. A 4th-placed Olympia hosted the defending champion, arriving on 4 straight wins under their belt, which had put them into 5th place for the first time this season. Ivan Siriščević scored first in this game, and then Klemen Prepelic announced that there would be a lot of attempts from distance in this quarter. Here's one from Vlado Ilijevski, who made it 15-12. And then 2 3-pointers by the hosts to finish up the quarter, which ended with 28-19. Olympia then went into a double-digit lead for the first time when Halil Kanacevic scored and drew a foul as well. And the 17-year-old Ante Žižić played really well in this match, as is evident from this dunk. But when Paolo Marinelli found Alen Omic, Olympia was already 14 points to the good. Olympia was really shooting well from distance, and when Marinelli managed to do so, he had opened up a 16-point advantage for his team. Damir Markota and Jure Lalic, both former Olympia players, then combined well to make it 43-30. But when Olympia scored that 7th three-pointer already, they were again 16 points in front. The teams were separated by 15 points at the end of the first half, when Alen Omic made it 50-35. And then Cibona came out of the dressing room as a completely different team, with much more energy on the court. Jure Lalic opened the third quarter with 6 consecutive points, and the deficit was cut to under 10 almost immediately. The home team needed 4 minutes to score after the interval when Nicolo finally broke the deadlock, but then Ivan Siriščević scored 3 times in a row, after which Cibona was only trailing the hosts by 4. Dominik Maura then set the score of the third period, which ended with 63-58. Maura was also the first to score in the last period, to close the gap to just 3 points. But then Olympia provided some resistance by scoring the next 8, including 2 shots for 3, after which they were back to an 11-point lead after Marinovic's 3. But then the next 9 points were scored by Cibona, and the teams were again only separated by 3 points. A minute and a half before time, Dino Muric scored both times for free throw line to put Olympia 5 points in front, but 11 seconds from time, 4 successive points from Ante Žižić put Cibona in front for the first time after the start of the game. Marko Marinovic had a chance to win it at the other end, but he missed, and the hosts would find themselves in real trouble as Siriščević then scored both times from free throw line to give Cibona a 3-point advantage with only 2 seconds on the clock, and Cibona was able to win this one in the end and make amends for that opening loss in Zagreb. The 6-time champion of the ABA League desperately needed a win after 2 consecutive defeats, and had a good chance of doing so at home against the more and more weakened Szolnok side, who did have the same win-to-loss ratio as the hosts. 4,500 people still turn up as the former Partizan player Strahinja Milošević opened the scoring, and Milan Mačvan did the same for the hosts. Szolnok was leading by 8-3 when Teddy Gibson scored, but then the hosts responded with a 9-2 partial to take the lead of 12-10 after Dragan Milosavljevic's points. The last 4 points of the first quarter was scored by Sasha Pavlovic, with 16-12 the score after the first 10 minutes. After 2 successive shots from Teddy Gibson, Szolnok was only trailing the hosts by 2 points, but the gap was then back to 6 when the Frenchman Boris Dalot made it 22-16. Having said that, Szolnok was even able to push for the lead come the end of the first half, as Lazarek Jones had a strong finish to it, setting the result of 30-29 in favor of the visitors. Partizan did then start the second half stronger and was soon in front by 4 points when Milosavljević scored. But that was followed by a period in which Christian Wittmann really excelled, scored all of the next 10 points for the Hungarians, who reclaimed the lead of 42-41. 46-44 after 30 minutes of play after Jones's new points. The American then kept touch with the hosts for some time in the last quarter, but Partizan did play better and was 4 points in front after Milutino's points. And this is the action in which Nicola Milutino scored, gave an advantage of 4 points to the home team. And then the gap risen to 9 points after Milenko Tepic scored and managed to draw a foul as well. Milosevic's effort was the visitors' last attempt to break back, but it didn't happen, as Partizan did win in the end by 62-55. Zadar was a team in form before the away match with Igokea, as they have notched up 4 successive victories and also boasted with the league's new best scorer, James Florence, who was also the first one to score in this match. But he would only score 5 in this game. For the home team, it was Jonathan Jones who scored first, but the visitors were soon in the lead of 6-2 when their captain, Ive Ivano, scored. That prompted a good response by Igokea, who responded with 11 successive points to take the lead at 13-6. Igokea was still 7 points in front when Stefan Živanović scored from distance. And then 6 points at the end of the first quarter, which finished with 19-13. The first basket of the second period gave Igokea a new highest lead of 8 points, courtesy of Dražen Zlovarić. But after that, Zadar reacted by scoring the next 12 to take the lead of 25-21 through Domagoj Bošnjak. Igokea was back in front by 2 when Đorđe Drenovac scored for 3. In fact, the home team scored 4 times for 3 in the last 2 minutes of the first half, 2 of which were contributed by Dušan Katnić, who also set the result of the first 20 minutes of 37-32. Nikola Dragović was next in line to fire from distance, as he was able to secure Igokea's highest lead of the game of 9 points right after the interval. Josip Sobin was winning battles under the basket, but that wasn't enough to prevent the home team taking a double-digit advantage for the first time in the match. The last act of the third quarter was Đorđe Drenovac pushing Igokea to an 11-point lead. It was 52-41. And then soon in the last period, the gap had risen to 13 points after Duško Bunić was successful. And then Zadar did provide some resistance, and after Henrik Širko scored for 3, the Dalmatians were 8 points behind. But then came the crucial offensive by the home team. First, Nikola Dragović scored twice from distance to put his team 14 points to the good. And then Branko Jorović rounded up a run of 10 successive points for the home team to put them 18 points in front and firmly towards victory. It ended with 71-56, with Igokea scoring as many as 12 three-pointers. The guests only managed to score 5. The duel between the last and the first place teams of the league took place in Sofia, where Levski had little chance to break Zvezda's record-breaking winning streak and in turn their own, which had cemented them firmly to the bottom of the table. After a couple of opening exchanges, Boban Marjanović was the standout player of the first quarter, in which he scored all of his 10 points and put the red and white into a 17-5 lead. The favourite from Belgrade was already 15 points to the good after the first 10 minutes when Charles Jenkins made it 22-7. Crvena Zvezda kept on scoring in the second period, where Jaka Blažić was able to contribute 5 consecutive points in a run in which the visitors scored 19 unanswered points and take the astronomical lead of 36-7. And it took more than 4 minutes for Levski to score in the second period, when finally Hristo Zahario broke the deadlock to make it 36-9. And when Nikola Kalinic opened up a ridiculous advantage of 44-9 when he scored for 3. After that, the next 5 points were scored by Dimitar Dimitrov, as he scored Levski's only 14th point. The first half ended with Stojan Djurski hitting for 3, was 48-17. Hristo Zahario was quick to score 4 in a row, in the beginning of the second half to make it 52-23. But Crvena Zvezda's response was to open up a new highest lead of 36 points, as Nikola Kalinic was stating his case of becoming the game's best scorer with 22 points in the end, which is of course his personal best in the ABA League. He was also the last player to score in the third period, which ended with 71-39. Nikola Rebic was also able to reach his personal best of 11 points, and when he scored for 3, the visitors were miles ahead with 38 points to the good. And the gap was already 42 points when Nemanja Dangubic scored twice in a row, and after that Dimitrov did soften the blow just a little bit with 2 consecutive shots from distance. But no real dilemma over the winner of this one. It ended with 99-58, with Crvena Zvezda winning for an amazing 14th time in a row this season. The second-placed Buducnost was the favorite against Metalac, in spite of the hot court in Valjevo, as the team from Montenegro had only suffered 2 defeats so far this season. And the teams were close throughout the opening stages. And then when Omar Cook lost the ball, Slobodan Djundjerski fed Đorđe Majstorović nicely, and the latter of course dunked it as he knows how. Metalac was playing fast basketball with numerous counter-attacks, one of which was again finished nicely by Nikola Jeftovic. The result of the first quarter was set by the home captain Dusan Kutlesic, who made it 17-14 for the home team. At the start of the second period, Metalac reached their new highest advantage of 5 points when Nikola Jeftovic was successful, but by the time J.R. Reynolds scored twice in a row, Buducnost was back in the lead of 26-24. Reynolds was also the best scorer of the match with 19 points to his name in the end. The guests were also in front come the end of the first half, which they won by 30-29. And then some real bad news for the home team, as they lost Boris Bakic to a nasty knee injury. He had to be carried away from the court with torn knee ligaments, as the season is now confirmed over for him. At the other side, Suat Čehović scored to make it 38-36 for Buducnost, and the visitors finally managed to score for 3 as Dasic ended a run of 13 failed attempts from distance. Still, Metalac managed to take the lead back right before the start of the last 10 minutes as Mališević made it 50-48. And when Đorđe Majstorović scored from under the basket, Metalac had escaped to a 6-point lead, a highest thus far, after which Igor Jovović was forced to make a timeout, which didn't turn out good for the visitors, and things certainly didn't go for the better, as the home team was quick to open a double-digit advantage for the first time in the game. Then the guests reacted through Nikola Ivanovic. They first managed to cut the deficit to 5, and by the time Darko Planic scored, they had taken the lead back, albeit by a single point. And the home team's answer was to score the next 7 points, and after Ljubicic's 3, they were in front by 67-61. Then the guests managed to close the gap to 2 points just over a minute to go, and then in the next offense they equalized the score to 67, but 20 seconds before time Nikola Jeftovic got the team back into the lead. 7 seconds before the end the teams were equal again as Šeković managed to score, but there was still enough time for Metalac to win the game. Marko Ljubicic drove to the basket, got fouled by Cook with 2 seconds remaining on the clock. He scored the first free throw and then deliberately missed the second one, as Buducnost wasn't left with enough time to react, and the win went to the home team, while Buducnost loses for the 3rd time this season. The Macedonian champion hosted Megaliks in the Jane Sandaski Hall and was keen to notch up another victory just to keep things going in the season, which did not start too well for the Macedonian champion. Rado Zagorac was the first player to score in this game, and for MZT it was Uroš Lučić with a 3. The Macedonians were in front by 5 points when Cedevita scored their third three-pointer already. And then the guests scored their first in their first attempt as Nemanja Krstic equaled the score to 17. Aleksandar Cvetkovic then set the result after the first 10 minutes when he made it 26-23. Metalac was in front by 4 points at the start of the second period when Aleksandar Marelja scored twice in a row. And Marko Kišl was also playing well, and by the time he scored 9 of the next 13 Megas points, they were nurturing a 7-point lead. After that, MZT with a good run of 7 successive points, after which they had equaled the score to 40, courtesy of Uroš Lučić and his third three-pointer. Still, Mega managed to stay in front after the first 20 minutes as Zagorac scored for 3 in the last 4 seconds of the first half. Aleksandar Marelja was the best scorer in the visitors' ranks with 16 points, and at the start of the third period he put Metalac's 5 points to the good, but soon MZT was back in the lead as Aleksandar Cvetkovic scored 5 in a row. The home team was also in front by a point after 30 minutes of play when Owen Klassen made it 61-60. The visitors were back into the lead when Nikola Jokic scored his first shot from distance from his third attempt. And then the gap grew to 4 points when Dusan Chantikin made it 69-65. Cvetkovic was the game's best scorer with 19 points. 3 minutes before time he managed to score and draw a foul as well to put the team equal to 75. And right after that, Stefan Sinovic, MZT's newest acquisition, made sure the home team would step into the finish of the game in front. Incidentally, it was a good debut for him with 17 points. Little over a minute to go and the visitors were back in it as they were only trailing the hosts by a single point through Ognen Yaramaz. Then in the last minute, MZT was very precise from the free throw line, missing only 1 from 6, while Metalac wouldn't score anymore, and MZT won it in the end by 84-79. So, no chance for Krka to do the double over Cedevita. Cibona wins after a thrilling end to the match against Union Olympia. Partizan with a better finish over Szolnok, while Crvena Zvezda records the highest win of the round against lowly Levski. A good win for Metalac against Buducnost, and MZT in the end better than Metalac. Let's take a look at the table. Of course, there's no change at the top, with Buducnost still holding second place despite losing in Valjevo. Cibona now catches Olympia in 4th place, and then the crowd continues all the way through the table. While there is increasing danger, Levski will be confirmed last much before the season ends. And Nikola Kalinic gets the accolade of most valuable player for the first time this season as he reaches the playing index of 32. He managed to do that by scoring a personal best, record-breaking 22 points with 7 rebounds, 2 assists and 1 stolen ball added to that tally in only 19 minutes he played in the win against Levski. And now let's take a look at the best 5 actions of the 14th round. We start at number 5. First a stolen ball and then a quick counter-attack of Metalac, which was finished nicely with Rade Zagorac dunking the ball. At number 4, it's this Cibona's action. They combined well, and only 17-year-old Ante Žižić with the dunk in the end. At number 3, we have Levski losing the ball, and then Crvena Zvezda just stealing it back, and Nemanja Tanković with a furious dunk in the end. At number 2, again stolen ball and a dunk. Of course, very fast basketball from Metalac, with Đorđe Majstorović dunking it well to finish off the action. And this week's number 1 is this nice alley-oop from the sideline, and Nikola Kalinic, who is also our MVP, dunking it nicely. And this was the best 5 actions of the round. The 15th round, kicks off with a repeat of the last year's semi-final between Crvena, Zvezda and Cibona. 2 more interesting matchups on Saturday, with Cedevita hosting Olympia and Krka with a chance to do a double over Partizan for the first time in history of the competition. The last game of the round will feature Metalac and Szolnok on Monday. And that's all for today. Join us again next time, which will be only in a few days' time. But for now, it's bye-bye from us.